This is Transfer Talk. Harry Kane made his £100 million move from Tottenham to Bayern Munich last week, and today we get a chance to hear from the striker live. We'll bring you his first UK interview since that move this hour. Loads of transfer news to come too, as Chelsea agree a fee to sign Romeo Lavia from Southampton. Let's get to the Women's World Cup semi-final. It's half-time still in the match between Australia and England. England, 1-0 up at this stage. In fact, we'll go to Fern Whelan a little bit later on. We might have a few problems with their microphone at the moment for the former England international. But half-time still at this stage. England 1-0 up after that goal from Ella Toone. Right, now we will talk about Chelsea, because Romeo Lavia is expected to have a medical in the next 24 hours after Chelsea agreed a deal worth £58 million with Southampton. Lavia must be registered by midday on Friday to be available for Sunday's game at West Ham United. Right, Zach, in terms of Lavia going to Chelsea, is Mauricio Pochettino the right manager for him?
I think so. Pochettino has gone through, I feel like, every experience he needs now in football. He's dealt with the superstars that you can deal with at PSG, the likes of Neymar, Mbappe and Lionel Messi. And I think he can't really get much bigger than that once he's been able to deal with their egos and how things kind of work on that side. But also how he's been able to build a squad like he did back in Tottenham when he was with Tottenham. From taking the likes of Harry Kane, this young up-and-coming striker, and making him into this elite beast that just was frightening for all Premier League defences, and taking other players like Dembele, who was really underrated, and creating him into this fantastic midfielder, or youngsters like Dele, who managed to get obviously a fantastic season where he was continuously scoring. I think he's got so many strings to his bow now, and Lavia is somebody that he can develop into the perfect midfielder that he wants him to be. And actually, you kind of see a little bit of similarity between him and Dembele during his time at Spurs.
Yeah, Chelsea fans, we want to hear from you. Hashtag Transfer Talk, and how happy you are with the window so far. And it could get even better, because Chelsea are finalising the details of an agreement for the Crystal Palace winger Michael Elise. Now, Chelsea triggered the £35 million release clause. Right, in debate, we focus on the Chelsea side of this in Good Morning Transfers, but how big a blow would it be for Palace?
I do actually just really feel sorry for Crystal Palace. They just started to get a bit of tune out of him last season after his injury. They obviously lost Zaha as well in the same window. That's both your wingers, essentially, that have left. Eze's just returned from injury, and I felt like Eze and Elise had a very good connection. And they started with Jordan Ayew at the weekend. And so, in that sense, you know, the downgrade from Elise to Ayew is quite a steep one, and they will have to get back in the market again pretty late on in the window to try and find a goal scoring or a creative winger, which, as we know, they're not that easy to find at this period in the window. So I think Palace have done quite well to build this side over the last couple of seasons, especially under Patrick Vieira. Feels like they've now taken 2 steps back because they've lost a couple of their key players.
I think it's a good thing for Crystal Palace, and the fans will be pleased that Roy Hodgson's there for another year, because I think he just guarantees that stability. If you lose an Elise, you've already lost your talisman in Wilfred Zaha as well. Having Hodgson there, who Palace won't be in any kind of trouble, but if they didn't have a manager like him, I feel like they could quite easily get sucked in.
The tough thing for Palace, though, is whilst they, especially for fans, they're looking out there and seeing Southampton getting these huge fees for Lavia, and Brighton obviously get these huge fees for Caicedo, and they've obviously lost Zaha on a free, and they're losing Elise to this possible release clause as well, £35 million. And when you look at that in today's market, it's a steal. It really is.
Yeah, Adriano has been in touch with Chelsea fans, says Poch living his best life at Chelsea, from no transfers to unlimited transfers, and one of those being Elise, of course, potentially, Dan. And a lot of people are saying, but he's flying at Crystal Palace, he's playing every game, he might not start at Chelsea. Why would he make that move? So why would he?
I think he's good enough to get in Chelsea's best 11, Elise. I think we're going to come on to Ziyech later, but I think actually Elise might end up doing all the things that perhaps they thought Ziyech would do when they signed him. All the brightest young talents at the moment in the country are going to Chelsea. That's the way it's going, and I think they're building something really, really exciting under this manager and the young players they've signed. And Elise will see all these other young superstars have gone to Chelsea, and he'll be thinking, yeah, I'll have a little bit of that as well. And like Zach says, For 35 million, that is a steal. I think this will be one of the best signings of the summer, in my opinion, pound for pound.
And for a lot of these players as well, they must be seeing these guys sign these long-term contracts, and obviously don't know the full extent of what the wages are, but you'd presume also pretty decent as well. And you're able to guarantee yourself that for an 8-year deal or a 7-year deal, which is hard to turn down.
I will say as well that I think this is the right time and the right step for him, because he's been through Premier League academies, he's been at a couple of different places, high-level academies. He's gone to the EFL and done really well at Reading, earned himself that move to Crystal Palace. Bit of a, not a sticky first season, but a first season where he was bedding in, didn't play every game. Last season he played nearly every week when he was fit. His output was really, really strong. He had a great season, scored some great goals, got a number of assists, and now he'll back himself. He's a part of the France under-21 setup as well. He'll back himself now to go to Chelsea and make a splash, and I honestly think he will, because I think he's a really good player.
Also, I think football's such a sort of fast-paced environment that if he wasn't to move this season, considering he had that big injury not that long ago, I wonder if he's thinking in the back of his mind, I'll pick up another injury and then the Chelsea move might not happen for 4 or 5 seasons. Now's a good time to go. Chelsea are rebuilding. He'll be involved in that rebuild. And for him, fingers crossed, he doesn't pick up an injury and hits the ground running.
I think that's a good point. I think as footballers, sometimes you probably do have to be a little bit selfish towards your own career. And that's the whole point about that contract. If you can guarantee yourself that long-term deal, then why not take it?
Yeah, we have got some news just into us from Chelsea. There have been a lot of outgoings already this summer, and there could be more. We're told, well, this is from Sky in Italy, in fact, that Roma are exploring other striking options to Duvan Zapata, and they include Chelsea's Armando Broja, right? The club are looking for another striker to Zapata after reaching a stalemate in negotiations with Atalanta, because that's where Zapata is at the moment. Roma have got an interest in Real Betis' Willian Jose, as well as Broja. And Broja is also admired by AC Milan as well. However, we do also believe that Broja is unlikely to leave Chelsea in this window. He's expected to compete with Nicholas Jackson at the club. That doesn't stop Roma being interested, of course, and that's the latest from Sky in Italy. Right now, Galatasaray have agreed a deal with Chelsea to sign forward Hakim Ziyech. He's expected to have a medical today, with officials from the Turkish club flying into London. A move to Al Nassr fell through in June after the medical showed up an issue with his knee. Right, Zach, I don't think I'm offending anyone by saying it hasn't gone as well as anyone expected for Ziyech at Chelsea. What went wrong? No,
I think everyone would be in agreement. This is a guy that when he was at Ajax, he was super exciting. There was always compilations and highlights of him going around online, and everyone thinking he can do this in the Premier League. And I remember thinking when we got the deal agreed early that he'd be heading to Stamford Bridge, that this was a good deal. What's happened, I feel, overall, is he's been quite unlucky. When he was starting to perform really well under Frank Lampard, he had injuries, and that kind of knocked him out of the team when he came back. And then when he did finally come back as well afterwards, Thomas Tuchel was there. And that's a completely different setup, a 3 at the back formation with Reece James taking down that right wing. And he preferred to use the likes of Timo Werner and Kai Havertz and Mason Mount in those kind of 3 attacking positions. And it didn't quite suit him as much. And because of that, you drop in form, you're not playing as often, consistency drops, and then obviously we've seen what's happened with Chelsea as well since having several different managers and there being no consistency in maybe how they're playing their football. And so now I think it would be a good time for him to try and get his career back on track. Galatasaray is a huge club out there internationally, and so yeah, if he does move, best of luck to him.
Well, we will go back to Chelsea in just a moment. Let's get back to the Women's World Cup semi-final. England leading 1-0 against Australia. Fern Whelan, former England international, is watching this one for us. Fern, how have England started the second half?
A little bit sloppy, I'll be honest. Yeah, the first 5-10 minutes of the second half, we've seen a few passes go astray. It's what I talked about towards the end of the first half, about us being concentrated, switched on and keeping tidy. We saw Russo's giving it away in a dangerous area, and again, that's where Australia have potentially had a chance. Australia have also mixed it up a little bit in the second half. No changes personnel-wise, but tactically-wise, they're going down the right-hand side a little bit more, rather than that left-hand side, which is opening up Carpenter and Rasso, and just causing us a little bit more of a problem on that side. So we just need to stay switched on.
Fern, thank you. So back to Chelsea, and striker David Washington will have a Chelsea medical in the next 24 hours ahead of a move from Santos worth €20 million, so about £17.5 million roughly. Chelsea to decide whether to send him on loan or keep him to be part of the first team squad. Right, Zach, what do you think Chelsea will do with him?
I think with the amount of competition that's there in that striker role, I know there is talks about trying to look at getting another striker in, but as you mentioned, Broja is now there. He's back from his kind of season-long injury. He'll be looking to compete. We've got Nicholas Jackson there, and Nkunku can play in that position. There's three really good talents, and so for him, I think the idea, from what it feels like, is he'll be going on loan to Strasbourg, which Chelsea obviously have links to as well with the multi-club model, and can try and guarantee him some minutes on loan in a strong division in France where you can develop youngsters really, really well, get him a lot of minutes. And I think for his future, that is maybe for this season the right move.
Nabeed, last season there was a serious lack of goals at Chelsea, wasn't there? I mean, have they actually solved that problem? For all of we've all been praising their transfer business. Have they solved that massive problem?
They only scored 38 goals in the Premier League last season. They've brought in Jackson as the focal point going forward. In reality, we don't actually know whether it will work out. He looks very bright against Liverpool, but what Chelsea need is a 15, 20 goal scorer. Yeah. Now, Sterling only scored 6 in the league last season. I thought he looked a lot better against Liverpool. Zach disagreed. Then there's Mykhailo Mudryk, who I think you'd imagine he'll contribute a few more goals, but I think the actual fix would have been in Nkunku, because he's a goal-scoring 10. But I do feel as though the way Pochettino plays, the contribution from the wingers this season, Elise coming in, they should score more goals. And Broja is fit again, and I think if Chelsea don't lose Broja, they've got a few goals there as well.
The big one is Poch as well, right? They have a manager here where he is known for creating these attacking sides that can score lots and lots of goals. Again, that does help. We saw that with PSG by having the likes of Mbappe, Messi and Neymar, and at Spurs they have the likes of Harry Kane there as well. So it is also about developing them. But just as key to the personnel, I think, is that formation and the kind of tactics that's going on about that. And I think Chelsea do have the assets to kind of be successful in that role.
Right, thank you. Loads on the way, including a live interview with Harry Kane following his £100 million move from Tottenham to Bayern Munich last week. Right, almost an hour gone in the World Cup semi-final between Australia and England. Fern Whelan, England still have the lead, but are they looking comfortable?
Yeah, it is. It's been the tempo of the game slowed down a little bit now. England are controlling the tempo, controlling the possession of the ball. No real chances so far in the last, 10-15 minutes. We've seen Hemp have a strike just from outside the edge of the box. Mackenzie Arnold dealt with it comfortably in goal. And then Millie Bright headed down just wide of the post off an Alex Greenwood corner as well. Those are the two main chances we've seen, but England really dominating the play at the moment.
Thank you. Breaking news comes from Sheffield United. They have signed the former Everton central midfielder Tom Davies. It's a free transfer. They've just announced this. It's their 7th signing of the summer. He's 25 years old. He's been at Everton for his whole career. It's a 3-year deal for him. And we've got some quotes from Davies and from the manager Paul Heckingbottom as well. Davies says, "I'm made up to be here. Can't wait to get started. It was time for me to go from the previous club to join Sheffield United. I'm really excited about it. I think it's a great project that the team have here. I'm full of enthusiasm and hunger to get going." And Paul Heckingbottom says, "Tom is someone I've admired for quite a while, and he's been desperate to come and play at Bramall Lane. We've kept a constant contact, but we've got our man, and we are delighted he is now a Sheffield United player because he's someone who provides valuable Premier League experience." He just finishes by saying he brings energy, a work ethic, a good physicality, along with Premier League experience. He will become a valuable asset to us. So Tom Davies is now a Sheffield United player, free transfer, 3-year contract. And Zach, I guess this might be a fresh start that the player needed.
Yeah, definitely. I think it kind of all went downhill a little bit for him when he was at Everton after his knee injury two seasons ago. It kept him out for 2/3 of the season. That's really tough to come back from. And not just that, sometimes obviously the squad have to kind of do better without you and fill the position without you. And by that point, they might have a player that's kind of performing better, on better form. And so for him, he's always struggled to kind of get back into the squad after that. And having a fresh start like this, Sheffield United need to be smart with their transfer signings. They don't have a big budget to go and spend like the likes of Chelsea do, for instance. And so these kind of smart signings can pay off, and they hope they will, obviously, for this season. And yeah, I'm sure he's somebody that just needs to be playing football. And if Sheffield United can do that for him, hopefully he'll reward them by good performances.
Nabeed, in terms of Sheffield United's transfer business since that promotion to the Premier League, it's been a bit mixed. Can you talk us through it?
Well, they've lost their main goal scorer, main goals contributor. When I was doing Soccer Saturday last season, I had the pleasure of going down to Sheffield United a couple of times, and I would have argued that NGL was probably one of the best players in the league. And so in my mind, I felt as though Sheffield United couldn't lose him. They obviously lose him right at the start of the transfer window. Then Sander Berge goes. They bring Gustavo Hamer, who had a very good season at Coventry last season. But I always feel in the Premier League, you need goal scorers, and they've lost their main goal scorer. And I'm sort of looking at the window going, you need to go and get a striker, because Everton last season struggled because Dominic Calvert-Lewin was injured for long periods. We've seen Burnley in the past struggle, and then they've sort of leaned on 2 or 3 players. So, yeah... I feel like, yeah.
Nabeed, you are absolutely right.
Wow.
I'm gobsmacked.
You have been interrupted by an absolutely incredible goal in the World Cup semi-final, and I'm afraid it's not gone the way we wanted, Fern Whelan.
No, it's completely against the run of play. England were dominating. It's a loose pass from the back. Alex Greenwood's played it into Russo. Australia have latched onto it, and they've set Sam Kerr free in our half, and she's driven and she's dribbled and she's drived, and she's struck an absolutely sweet strike, and it's gone top corner. Mary Apes can't get to it, but she's dribbling and she's driving at Millie Bright, and we give her too much time. No one really stops the shot, and it's an absolutely fantastic strike outside the edge of the 18-yard box, and it had to be that player, Sam Kerr, who's now made it 1-1 against Australia.
Oh, my life, that was an absolutely incredible strike. I think it might have been a slight touch there off Millie Bright's knee, maybe. Here's the Australia fans reacting to that. As Fern says, completely against the run of play, but they'll take it. And what a player Sam Kerr is. OK, Fern, thank you for now. It is game on, 1-1 in that match. Right, OK, so I think, Nabeed, I think you got your point across about Sheffield United's transfer business, hadn't you?
Yeah, it's not been very impressive, unlike that goal from Sam Kerr. And I'm sure if people are watching it at home, they can understand why I was absolutely gobsmacked.
Yeah, understandable. That was incredible. OK, 1-1 in that one. Let's move on to Manchester City, because Manchester City, it is our understanding, of accepting an offer from Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia for their defender, Aymeric Laporte. And we'll go back to you for debate on this one, because why would Aymeric Laporte make this move at this stage of his career?
I feel as though he's at the point in his career where he's won 5 Premier Leagues, 2 FA Cups, he's won a Champions League. Al Nassr have Mane, Cristiano, Brozovic, completely different lifestyle. And he's had a period where he was injured, only featured 12 times last season. He's just recently become a father, he's got a young family. I feel as though a bit of privacy away from sort of the limelight in the Premier League and also regular football. The problem he's going to have at Man City is Josko Gvardiol's come in, they have Stones and Diaz and Ake as well. He's going to be rotated frequently, and he probably wants to play football week in, week out. So in my mind, at 29 years of age, I think it's a very good move for him.
You two disagreed. Both of you
Just looking at his phone to see if anything was popping up of what he's been told to sign at Nabaid. No, look, what Nabaid has said is perfectly reasonable. I think he's such a good defender. Yeah. I just think it's personally a little bit of a waste.
Well, there were links obviously to Tottenham Hotspur as well, but I guess it depends on the fee that obviously they might pay to Manchester City, and also the wages they're offering. He's at that age now where he might be getting that final long-term contract where he can get big wages, and obviously we've seen the numbers that have been coming out of that league, and you can understand why players are thinking about it and making that decision to go. But I guess out of kind of I think it's a shame, because it feels like he's still got so much to give in the Premier League, and so I feel like
budget plays such a big part of it. Though this time in the window, there's just over a couple of weeks left. Someone's got to fork out a lot of money to get him away from Man City, and then also convince him with a salary that has to compete with Saudi Arabia. And I just think that's a very difficult task.
On Good Morning Transfers, Nabaid, you said that it felt like Aymeric Laporte had completed the Premier League. Let's have a look at what he's won in his time at Manchester City, and I guess this kind of explains what you were saying, Nabaid.
I mean, he's won every trophy available in England. Obviously, you see 4 League Cups, 2 FA Cups, 5 Premier Leagues and a Champions League. And although he didn't feature as much as maybe what he would have liked last season, he's contributed to the process that's led to them winning the Champions League. He also contributed to last season's Premier League title. And I've said this repeatedly, that I do think he's got a lot of football left in him. He was just very unlucky with that injury, and since then has struggled to get back in the side. And because City's sort of like at such a high level, where Pep Guardiola's constantly turning over players, it's very difficult for him to imagine him playing every single game next season. It's baffling as well, because this is a guy, for me anyway, there were points during his career at Man City, he was the best centre-back in the league.
He was a huge signing, wasn't he?
I think maybe just before Diaz joined, and obviously Diaz took his place at times, he really was that best centre-back in the league. And last season you can understand why he might be frustrated from not getting the minutes that he wanted, only 12 games played. He has had injury issues, that's another side of it as well, and maybe he doesn't want to go, if he went to another club in the Premier League, they could put some sort of clauses or regulations about he has to meet a certain amount of games to achieve a certain amount of a wage structure or so on and so forth. So, yeah, these are all things you have to think about. And especially as an individual who has now seen his club and himself lift the Premier League numerous times, won the FA Cup, won the Champions League. I wouldn't blame him if he feels like he's completed football. I think on that point there, Zach and Dan have both agreed that he's one of the best defenders, or certainly was at a certain point in the Premier League. He definitely probably has that level still in his body and in his legs, but he's only playing 12 times, and so he's probably desperate for a move elsewhere. And then it comes to the other points of someone has to be able to buy him and has to have the finances. So,
well, West Ham are expecting an improved offer from Manchester City for midfielder Lucas Paquetá. It's thought West Ham will only begin to consider offers in the region of £85 million, and negotiations continue. Dan, if Manchester City do get him, where does he fit in?
I would have said that this was a relatively urgent signing for Manchester City before the season started, because as ridiculous as it sounds about Manchester City, I do think they are light in certain positions, and midfield's definitely one of those. And then Kevin De Bruyne is obviously then ruled out for 4 months, so there's obviously a gap there in the team, and I think Paquetá can fill that. I really think he's a really excellent footballer. He plays centrally for Brazil and makes a huge impact in their team. He's done it in France as well. West Ham as a team last season weren't the most fluid, and I don't think the way they play particularly suits him. I think if you put him in a better team, you'll really see what he's all about. I watched a bit of the Bournemouth game at the weekend. He shows some flashes of absolute brilliance. He's quite robust, actually more physical than you think he's going to be as well. So I think he'd be a huge asset to Manchester City, and certainly now with De Bruyne out, if he goes there, he's probably going to be starting.
They need more options in midfield. With Gundogan leaving, immediately you'd go, you need a...
Really? Do you think so?
I think in that position, yeah. Because if they've got Rodri and then Calvin Phillips as a backup, and then you've got, obviously, De Bruyne's now out, and maybe Foden would be his backup. That left-sided 8 position, I think it's open for someone.
I just think with Kovacic there, Rodri there, I think at some point Phil Foden has to ask, when am I going to get my starting position in this squad?
I think Foden might be needed wide though, mightn't he?
But then you've got Bernardo Silva, who's been fantastically, can play that position. There's James McAtee, who's been brilliant, obviously, in the Championship last season. Cole Palmer is there, and we've heard so much about how highly rated he is at Man City. He's eventually got to start going getting minutes somewhere. And I feel like... basically, somebody's not going to win here, and whether that is Cole Palmer or whether that is McAtee, I mean, most likely you'd expect him to maybe go out on loan, or that is Phil Foden. I feel like somebody's going to be quite upset by this move, and if that is Phil Foden, this is a guy who we at times talk about a generational talent here for England, and obviously during the Euros he was being compared to Gascoigne and the level that he can reach, and I feel like since then we've not seen him maybe get enough minutes to become the star guy for Man City, which I feel like personally he could easily become.
Big chance for England in the World Cup semi-final. What's happened, Fern Whelan?
Oh no, there's a goal. It's just gone in now. There was a chance before that, but Lauren Hemp has just scored for England, so it's 2-1. Honestly, this game is end to end. Australia had the chance a minute ago, Sam Kerr, but that's it. England 2-1 up with 20 minutes to go.
And Fern, the thing is, since that equaliser from Australia actually looked much better, didn't they, until this time it's England hitting them with a sucker punch.
They did. The goal really regalvanised Australia. They had another chance straight away. Sam Kerr got in between Millie Bright and Jess Carter and headed it down. We've had a few chances also, but again, England are now taking the game to Australia. They're going direct. Millie Bright has hit a direct ball from inside their own half, pinpoint into Lauren Hemp, and she's battled. She probably wasn't favourite to win the ball, but she's beat a defender to it, and she struck it down and low into the bottom corner past Mackenzie Arnold, and England are 2-1 up.
Oh, massive goal that for England, and with less than 20 minutes to go. This is reaction here in a fans' park. England fans going wild. There is still time to go, though. And, of course, with Sam Kerr in great form today, it is not over yet. Fern, thank you. We'll just get back to Manchester City quickly. And you were talking, Zach, about the amount of players that Manchester City do have in those central areas. But how much of a problem is it that they know that Kevin De Bruyne, he's not just out for a few weeks, he's out for a long time?
But this is where, as I kind of mentioned, the guys there, like McAtee, maybe there's an idea if you don't send him out on loan, you give him a chance here. There's obviously Kovacic, there's Rodri. There, when I think about that squad right now, Jack Grealish didn't start on the weekend against Friday against Burnley. This is somebody who was one of the best players in the league last season. If he's playing out on that left wing, then you can play Phil Foden into that midfield. Bernardo Silva can play onto the right if it's also got Kovacic and Rodri in that squad. I mean, Kovacic, he looked in a crazy debut for him. He looked like he'd been playing for Man City for 3 years, to be quite honest, how well adjusted and how quickly he had adapted to that system. I feel like there are players there, and so when you're looking at some of the numbers that are needed to obviously get him out of West Ham, I just think, OK, do you need to desperately spend that amount of money on somebody when you've got options there? Look, maybe they just think McAtee's not quite ready and Paqueta could be that guy. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting whatever happens.
I would say quickly, the simplest way of looking at it is that Kovacic has essentially replaced Gundogan, but they haven't replaced Mahrez, and now De Bruyne is out for 4 months. That's 2 high-level players down. If you're fighting on every front, you need to replace those 2 players.
I just think if you get Paqueta in, somebody's going to be left unhappy because they're not going to be getting enough minutes. But also, Pep will just go back and say, well, we won the Champions League, Premier League and FA Cup last season. It can't be that bad.
That's just Pep Guardiola's Man City, isn't it? There's always someone unhappy. That's part of the reason probably why Mahrez left. Bernardo's been unhappy at different times. It's just how Pep Guardiola functions.
Well, that's Manchester City, but coming up, we will discuss Manchester United has their attention now turned to outgoings. Oh, we're all getting nervous watching the Women's World Cup semi-final between Australia and England. 13 minutes plus stoppage time to go. Fern Whelan, but England very much back on top.
Yeah, they are. They're a bit more in control now. We're seeing them take the game to Australia. They've got a corner here off an attack from Alessia Russo. She's had a shot. It's deflected wide. And Alice Green was just about to step up and take a corner. It's our first one since, obviously, the second goal went in. It's been lofted in, direct into the box. Millie Bright's got up, connected with it, but it's gone wide. But as I say, we are back on top now. We've managed to regain control. I think fantastic for me in the midfield too have been Stanway and Walsh, not just going forward, but defensively as well. They're really stifling any Australia attack.
Yeah, let's hope they continue to do that. Fern, thank you. Now, Manchester United defender Harry Maguire's move to West Ham has fallen through. Any move this late in the transfer window would have left Manchester United with not enough time to bring in a replacement, is what we are told. But on Harry Maguire's point of view, Zach, do you think he still needs a move anyway?
I think for his own career, yeah. This is somebody who didn't get a lot of minutes last season. You can kind of see in the pecking order that he's the fourth choice centre-back. He's kind of hoping on kind of getting cup game minutes in order to kind of make an impression on Gareth Southgate. In the last show, I kind of feel like I raised the point that I think whilst in the last World Cup, he was able to get into that squad. By the Euros, it would have been another season and a half since then, and he's not had much game time, hasn't got much match fitness to impress. And within that time, you've got Mark Gehi, who's become captain of Crystal Palace. You've got Tomori at AC Milan, who made it to the Champions League semi-finals. You've got Levi Colwill now, who had a fantastic season at Brighton, now at Chelsea, who actually linked up with the squad at their last international training session. And so I think for him and his own career, especially if he's thinking about that international tournament, because we know how much he's loved playing for England, he needs to be getting minutes, and he needs to be getting a lot of minutes and improving and showing that he is still somebody to get picked and to play for that England team.
Do you think he's perhaps waiting for another team to come in for him potentially? Maybe he doesn't quite fancy West Ham, because there are other teams that potentially could need a centre-back. Do you think he's maybe...
We don't think his issue is with West Ham, though, Dan. No, we don't think that was the issue. There's been no deal agreed in the end between the two clubs rather than that. But Nabeed, you actually disagree a bit with Zach, don't you? You don't think he necessarily has to move?
I mean, I can understand Zach's point of view, but I also can understand Harry Maguire's, whereby maybe he doesn't need to move. Maybe he's settled at Manchester United. Maybe he's hoping that, not hoping, but we know Varane's injury record isn't brilliant. Sandro came off in their previous game. Maybe he's hoping there's an opportunity there for him, maybe possibly in cup games.
I just can't see him getting picked, because there was injuries at the back end of last season for Manchester United. He still wasn't getting picked. Luke Shaw was lining up at left centre
I
back.
do feel, though, last season Manchester United were just trying to get over the line. This season, I think they've got a set plan. They want Luke Shaw to play at left back. They want Dalot or Wan-Bissaka at right back, and they want their actual centre-backs playing centre-back because they want to compete. And I don't think they want to be in the situation where they're going, can you play here and can you play there and can we do this to try and just get over the line. I think they've got a structured plan this year.
But talking of centre-backs, Manchester United defender Eric Bailly is unlikely to join Al Nassr after the Saudi Arabia club decided to turn their attention to Manchester City's Aymeric Laporte by now exploring other options. He had an offer from Besiktas, but has decided not to pursue that deal. Right, Dan, we've talked about Harry Maguire potentially needing a move. I mean, Eric Bailly's kind of a forgotten man in a way.
Yeah, if we were doing a forgotten 11, I think he'd probably be in it, wouldn't he? We like doing that here on this show. He'd definitely be in that 11 at the moment. I'm sat here saying I don't think Maguire is going to play much football. Eric Bailly isn't going to play any football for Manchester United this season, is he? So he's had a loan move last season in France, which wasn't really that successful. Didn't play as many games as he probably would have hoped for. A chance to rebuild his career at a high level there. So he needs a move, but it seems like the potential chance that he has been ruined by Laporte making the move.
I've got his appearances for Manchester United in front of me. 21, 22 working backwards. 4 in the Premier League, 12, 4, 12, 13. So he won't feature under Ten Hag. He needs to move.
He's another player that's suffered through injuries.
Yeah,
he really has, especially over the last few years. And sometimes you just need a fresh environment in order to kind of have a little bit of luck go your way.
He was really highly rated, wasn't he, when he bought for a big fee at the time as well. When he came in, and Manchester United fans were really excited. He looked like he was the complete centre-back, had that recovery pace. Looked good, actually,
aggressive
when he first joined. But you're right, I think injuries so often end up curtailing players, and this is another instance of that.
Yeah, look, I should just look at the Manchester United squad. I've just got it in front of me here. We've talked about Eric Bailly there and Harry Maguire. Anthony Martial's constantly linked with moves away. Amad Diallo is injured after a very good loan spell last season. He could still go as well, depending on that injury. Scott McTominay's been linked with a move away. Donny van der Beek hasn't been favoured for quite some time. So, Zach, it does seem that outgoings will now be a priority for Manchester United. I know Fred has gone, but there's quite a few that I've listed right there.
Yeah, 100%. I think these are a lot of players who, over last season, Ten Hag was able to kind of get his opinion and get ready on what he'd want to do with them as well. A very good chance there for Australia. Sorry,
didn't go in.
It
didn't go in.
But yeah, no, I think for Ten Hag, he's basically able to make his opinion on these guys, and this is the summer for them to move them on, to sell them, and try and generate some revenue back before they go into another year of their contract.
Yeah, we'll find out about that chance after the break, and also we'll focus on West Ham, who are in the market for a defender and midfielder. Football, a lot can happen in a minute. Australia were so close to equalise, but now Fern Whelan, game over.
That surely has to be it now. Oh, it's fantastic play from England and from Lauren Hemp in particular. She picks the ball up inside their own half and the game has opened up so much. She's got the time and space to drive forward. She's slipped in Alessia Russo. Great finish, clinical finish from here. Bottom corner, 3-1 England. That surely has to be it now. You can see the faces of the Australian players. They're devastated. We've got not long left to play now. It's a great scene to see here from England. Obviously, 3-1 up. Players on the bench. Everyone's come off the bench celebrating with the England players. That surely has to be it now.
England are going through to the World Cup final. Fern, thank you. Look at the scenes here. Look at them all rise to their feet, the England fans, as Russo went through, and then the celebrations. And they will already be looking forward to Sunday's final now, because there's only 2.5 minutes plus stoppage time to go. England are 3-1 up. Now, West Ham United in talks with Stuttgart over the signing of Greek international centre-back Konstantinos Mavropanos. West Ham moving on to other targets after Harry Maguire has decided to stay at Manchester United. But West Ham remain in talks with Ajax over the signing of midfielder Mohamed Kudus. Plenty of interest from other clubs in him as well, but one source has told us that West Ham are getting encouragement that he is open to the move. How exciting would this be for West Ham fans? Yeah,
super exciting. If I was a West Ham fan right now, I'd be very excited. This is a player that's been obviously targeted by Brighton. That's always a pretty good sign if we've seen the past couple of years how things have worked out. Chelsea, Arsenal have all been after him as well. This on the weekend as well, he played for Ajax, managed to score. He played a full 90 as well. He's somebody that is versatile too. I think the idea could allow Jared Bowen to possibly play through the middle as a striker. He can play in that right wing. He can play in a 10 role. He can also play as a striker himself too. He's adaptable. He's great on the ball, quick. I think there's a lot of assets towards his game here, and he's still very, very young, 23 years old, and has got a lot to give.
Yeah, he does. And free agent Jesse Lingard was telling you yesterday he continues to train with West Ham. The club are assessing the possibility of a short-term deal, but primarily the focus is to keep the player's fitness up. He's a free agent after leaving Nottingham Forest at the end of the season. Dan, how important is this next move for Jesse Lingard?
Yeah, massive. This is a player that's timeline probably hasn't gone the way he would have wanted it to. He had that exceptional loan with West Ham a couple of years ago where in the second half of the season he was absolutely explosive. It felt like he was scoring goals every week and then probably should have ended up going there permanently but decided to give it another shot at Manchester United. That didn't go well. He barely played. Manchester United were a little bit all over the place that season and then he's gone to Forest on loan where he's not really played again. It's not really worked. Needs a fresh environment again, and West Ham somewhere where he's done well previously. But Jesse Lingard is obviously a player with incredible talent. He's been a lightning rod at times. That loan with West Ham, I can't overstate enough how good he was there. But he's essentially had a couple of wasted years now, so he needs to bounce back and get back to what he's good at. And Moyes has got something out of him before, and he'll be hopeful that he can again. I'd like to see it work out for Jesse Lingard because I like him as a person and I like him as a player.
Yeah, Nabez, same thing. He's taking his time, obviously, because we know he's got options. He's taking his time. Right thing to do.
I mean, I was sort of surprised he didn't go to West Ham before he went to Forest, because the Forest move, as Dan just said there, didn't really work out for him. He had a very good time at West Ham. I'd also be quite surprised if West Ham, if the opportunity was there, turned down the chance to get him this season, because I do feel like they need bodies through the door. They've obviously lost a number of players. They may lose Paquetá as well, so I feel like it makes a lot of sense for them to swoop in for Jesse Lingard, and it's also a free agent, so there's no money to be spent. Yeah, well, he is training with them right now. OK, back to the semi-final between Australia and England. Fern Whelan, how much stoppage time has gone up on that board?
We've got 6 minutes added on here now for England, so an agonising 6 minutes for the last final moments of the game. England are soaking up a lot of pressure now from the Australian team. They're still pushing and they're still trying to get those goals. Yeah, game management so important, but there's only 5 of those 6 minutes left. Fern, thank you. Aston Villa closing in on a deal to take Galatasaray attacking midfielder Nicolo Zaniolo on loan. Dan, why Zaniolo at Villa? I was hoping we'd sign him whilst I was on air. It's never happened to me.
There is still time, Dan.
One day Villa will sign someone when I'm actually here. It's one of those now where the Villa fans have felt so buoyant in pre-season. It felt like everything was coming together. We were in a really good place, and then a bad result and a couple of injuries, and it's gone a little bit in the doldrums. I still maintain that Villa will have a fantastic season under Unai Emery, but it's gone from thinking that the squad were in a really healthy position, competition for places, to actually we need a couple more bodies here. And Zaniolo is someone who's worked under the sporting director, Monchi. Before, it wasn't Monchi that signed him for Roma, but Monchi worked with him at Roma. He's gone to Galatasaray on loan last season. I think he scored 5 goals for Galatasaray. And he's a player with undoubted talent, was a big part of the Roma side that won the Europa Conference League. And there's a space now in those front positions because Villa have lost Emi Buendia for a long time. It's a risky signing, although it's a loan, it's still a risk because Zaniolo struggled with injuries himself. But they've got to try and get someone in with pedigree, and that's what they've done. Hopefully he can get himself fit and he'll be in that Villa 11 as soon as possible.
Where do you think that leaves Coutinho?
Coutinho, he could quite easily leave by the end of the winter. I think Villa, like a lot of clubs, there's players who they're quite happy to keep, but if a Saudi team was to come in for them and offer huge money and take them off the books, take the wages off the books, they'd probably accept it. But I don't think the depth of the squad now after these couple of injuries, I don't think Villa can really afford to let anyone go at the moment. Coutinho came on at the weekend against Newcastle and looked bright. He's looked bright at stages through pre-season as well. Wouldn't surprise me at all if he started against Everton at home on Sunday, Philippe Coutinho.
Right, OK. Sky in Italy reporting that Lazio are among the clubs interested in Tottenham goalkeeper Hugo Lloris. Clubs in Saudi Arabia also interested in him. He is one of as many as 8 players that could leave Tottenham before the deadline as Ange Postecoglou looks to streamline his squad. Dan, who are the players that could go? Who do we think the players are?
Yeah, so it's our understanding there is a list of players that Spurs would make available for transfer that could be available to leave. We understand it's Lloris, Eric Dyer, who potentially wants to stay, Reguilon, Jed Spence, Højbjerg, Ndombele and Sanchez, although Sanchez has obviously played at the weekend and actually had a good game against Brentford. So there's a list of players there, again, a bit like Villa, that Spurs wouldn't be desperately unhappy to keep, but if someone did come in for them, they would make them available for transfer. I mean, there's none in there that massively shock me. I don't know about you two. Eric Dyer, I suppose, is the interesting one. He's been a mainstay in that Spurs defence for a number of years, but Spurs fans would probably say it's time for a refresh in that position.
Well, he's been there for nearly 10 years now, and Spurs don't have a great number of centre-backs at this moment in time. And also with the amount of injuries they constantly pick up at centre-back. Christian Romero's record at centre-back with injuries isn't great. And so you could end up in a situation if Spurs where, again, they end up with 3 centre-backs fit, and then you're sort of stitching players in that centre-back. You don't really want to be in that situation. And I'm quite surprised that Ange Postecoglou seems to really like characters that want to be at the club. And Eric Dyer, obviously, probably, from what we've heard, wants to stay.
Yeah, back to Tottenham in a moment. Let's get back to Fern Whelan because we're on the very, very closing stages of this World Cup semi-final. The Lionesses on the brink.
They're on the verge, are so close now. Chloe Kelly's come on, she's taken it into the corner, very professional from England. They know they've literally got a minute to ride this out now and they'll be going to their first ever World Cup final.
And Fern, nobody can argue that England have deserved this. But for about 10 minutes of the game, they have been the better side, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. They've dominated this game across all areas of the park. I can't really pick out one player because I think they've all been fantastic today within their own different areas. Obviously, Australia had that spell where they really threw everything at us, but we rode through most of it, apart from, obviously, the freak goal from Sam Kerr. So I think, yeah, it's been thoroughly deserved today for this England side.
Who has really stood out for you today so far, Fern?
I think if you look at the back line, I think Millie Bright defensively has been fantastic. I think Ella Toone today has really shone compared to previous games. She's been quiet. And I think Lauren Hemp, for me, I think she's probably been one of our standout players today.
And Fern, how proud are you of these Lionesses? I mean, the Euros were incredible, and to follow it up with the World Cup, with all these injuries, to be going through to the final, to face Spain, how proud are you of these players?
Oh, honestly, so proud. I think they've been fantastic, and the adversity they've faced throughout this tournament as well, even, losing Kira Walsh originally to injury. We lost Lauren James after the red card, and we just continue to bounce back. And this team has shown such, resilience and such an elite mentality that they thoroughly deserve to be in this final. And I do believe we can go all the way.
And massive celebrations on the pitch. Huge smile from Serena Wiegmann because the full-time whistle has gone. England are into the World Cup final. Loads of reaction to that to come. Fern, we'll be back with you in just a moment because Right now, we are going live to Germany. As promised, Bayern Munich's new signing, the England captain Harry Kane, is waiting to speak to our reporter Paul Gilmore exclusively to UK media since his move from Tottenham last week. Paul, take it away.
Tom, thank you very much. Yes, we are here at the heart of Bayern Munich's training ground with Bayern Munich's new number 9, Harry Kane. And a smile on your face, Harry, as well, just hearing confirmation that the Lionesses are into a World Cup final. Let's start by getting your instant reaction to that.
Massive congratulations to the Lionesses. I was literally just watching it there at lunch and it was 1-0. I got pulled away and now you guys are saying it's 3-1. So it sounds like a heck of a game, but massive congratulations. You know, we're all behind them and hopefully they can do it in the final.
Yeah, that's the kind of impact that the World Cup final against Spain it has. It'll be fever pitch back home, won't it?
Absolutely. You know, you saw what the Euros done when they won the Euros and how much it brought the country together. So I'll be watching out here in Germany, but no, massive congrats. You know, wishing them all the best, and they deserve it.
Now, you've had a lot in your mind this week, it has to be said. Here we are, 5 days into the new adventure, new country, new culture. How have you found it? I mean, I've seen the billboard with your face on it in the city centre with 10,000 shirts sold in the first day alone on Saturday. What's it been like?
It's been crazy. It's been the first kind of few days was hectic for sure. A lot going on, a lot to do. Obviously, the game on Saturday. So, yeah, the last couple of days have been nice to kind of settle in. Got some good training sessions in with the team, starting to get to know the team a little bit better. So, but yeah, amazing experience, you know, everything about it. But now it's about kind of focusing on the game Friday and getting down to work.
Have you had that moment yet where you've thought, wow, this is completely different to what I'm used to?
I think when I was sitting on the bench at the game on Saturday, I think because everything happened so quick, you know, I was looking around and, you know, a totally new environment, a totally new team, new stadium. That was a bit of a wild experience, but you know, ultimately once I'm on the training pitch, once I'm in the games, it feels natural, it feels normal, and that's what's happened over the last few days.
You've said you're going to have German lessons. I know Jamal Musiala told us after the game it's tough, it's a tough language, but do you start, how does that work? Do you start by picking up the little football words and phrases that will help you on the training pitch and around the meetings and things like that?
Yeah, I think so. You'll start to learn, I guess, the basic phrases. I mean, there's a German teacher here who I'll have lessons with once or twice a week. And yeah, we'll be starting with the basics. I'm not sure I'm going to learn it fluently anytime soon, but I think to try and understand as much as possible, sometimes when the coach is talking in German, to try and understand that. But yeah, everyone's been great. A lot of guys talk English here as well, so they've been helping me out with everything. But we'll have to wait and see how long it takes to actually learn a few more words.
And you mentioned the league debut, obviously, that comes this Friday night against Bremen. What are you expecting from that? I know Thomas Tuchel has talked about starting. Are you just in that place? Obviously, the last time you started the game, you scored 4 goals in a friendly. Are you in that place where you're ready to hit the ground running? I
think so. You know, I had a really good pre-season, a lot of training, a lot of games. And now this week, you know, naturally just gone into the team environment and settled in really well. So I'm excited to get the season started. I think any first game of a league season is one of the most exciting of the year because you're so ready to go and eager to show what you can do. So yeah, it's going to be a tough game, like every game will be, but away from home. But you know, I'm excited to try and, you know, show Bayern Munich and show the fans what I've been doing my whole career and try and win that game.
You've talked at length about the desire to come here and win trophies and be involved in the Champions League. I just wondered, you know, in the past where you've talked a little bit in the documentary about possibly reaching that level of Messi or Ronaldo. Does that help you achieve, yes, there's the team side of it, but also help you with your personal development as a player as well, even at the age of 30? Yeah,
well, I think, you know, a lot of people talk about the trophies and why I came here, but ultimately it was to improve, to feel a new pressure of having to win titles every year, having to go far in the Champions League, and pushing myself to that limit. And yeah, I think, you know, if you're winning games, if you're winning titles, if you're winning Champions Leagues, and I'm the one playing up front, it's more than likely mean I'm going to be scoring goals, which then allows you to win other individual awards, but that all comes from what you achieve as a team, and that's my focus first and foremost, and that starts this Friday. You know, we've got a long season ahead, a lot of pressure for Bayern Munich to win the league and to go far in the Champions League, and that's what I'm excited to try and challenge myself with.
You always have talked up the team impact on your own individual success. When you mentioned, though, the individual trophies, is that the likes of Ballon d'Or? Does that put you in that bracket if things go well? When you think of Lewandowski, when he was here, he was runner-up a couple of years ago. And that.
Yeah, I think if you're winning your league, I think if you're winning the Champions League, obviously we have the European Championships next summer as well. I think, as you've seen with the Ballon d'Or, for example, you have to be winning team trophies to achieve that. So, yeah, like I just touched on, if I'm scoring goals and we're winning trophies, then of course that'll come into question. But it's not really what my focus is on right now.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about this next part of your career. When you look back, after your playing career, what would constitute success for you? What would be your ideal club and country success?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to put on, like how many trophies you want to win, but I think I've always said throughout my whole career, I never want to retire and feel like I could have done more or I could have pushed myself a little bit more. And that was a big part of the decision making coming here, because I felt like to improve and to get better, I had to be playing, at the highest level. And so yeah, look, of course I want to win every competition that I play in. That's the ultimate goal every season. But I think, when you finish your career, whenever that may be, you just want to make sure that you've pushed yourself to your limits, and that's what I'll continue to do.
And a winter break, this time to look forward to. Does that help with, given you played the World Cup in December and looking ahead to the tournament next summer, the winter break must be something different?
Yeah, no, that'll help for sure. We all know how busy and packed the schedules are, especially in England with the Premier League and all the competitions. So having a winter break will be a nice experience. It will be nice on the body to rest and recover over that period, especially. So. And yeah, of course, going into the European Championships next season, that'll allow me to be have a bit more rest than what I usually have. But yeah, so I'll enjoy that moment. But there's still a few months to go until I can think about that.
What will you miss most about the Premier League, and also, will it be strange, the first North London derby that comes along this season, watching from afar? Yeah,
of course, it'll be strange to begin with, and. I love the Premier League, and I was brought up as a kid watching the Premier League, and so yeah, of course I'll miss parts of it, and playing with teammates and playing in certain stadiums, atmospheres. But yeah, this is a new challenge for me, so I'm sure I'll keep an eye on it, as I keep an eye on all football pretty much anyway. But yeah, I'll miss it to begin with, but I think my focus is here, and I'm really excited for this challenge and trying to help this team.
And a final one just to look ahead to, Bremen, again, of course, that level of scrutiny on Bayern Munich. I guess playing for England at major tournaments, probably you're used to that level of scrutiny. Is that a fair comment?
I think so. I think, when you're at a club like Bayern Munich, you have to win. It's not, there's no questions about it. If you don't, or if you don't perform well, there's going to be question marks over you. So, yeah, look, I've been able to handle that throughout my career, whether it's with Tottenham or with England, and I think, like I said, I'm focused on myself a lot of the time and trying to help, push players around me and the team around me. I don't focus too much on the media side and the stuff outside of football, so that'll allow me to concentrate on what I need to. And yeah, I think starting the season, you always want to start well with a good result. Away game first will be tough, but if we can win that, we can set up a good bit of confidence for the rest of the month.
Yeah, and that round of golf with Thomas Müller, does that have to wait until, and maybe seeing the city as well, does that have to wait until after maybe the baby's born?
I've not done that yet. Maybe next week. We have a bit more time next week in the afternoon, so I'm sure we'll get in, especially whilst the weather's like this. So, but that's all part of, I guess, getting to know my team as well. I think. Thomas himself is a great leader and a great personality in this team, so I'm sure he'll help me, understand all the other players, and hopefully we can build a good connection.
And you're relishing that leadership as well, your experience that you can bring, even if it is a new culture?
I think so. I think that's something I've always had throughout my career, naturally anyway. Once I'm on the pitch, I'm just trying to help the team and push the team, and it's not just about shouting, it's about getting to know, my players and what makes them motivated and what makes them get the best out of themselves. So that will naturally be something I'll be doing, and hopefully that can help the team push on even more.
Look, Harry, congratulations on the move. We wish you well, and thank you so much for taking the time out as well to speak today. And we'll look forward to seeing your league debut, Harry Kane.
Thank you.
Playing for Bayern Munich in Bremen, of course, live on Sky Sports this Friday evening.
Fantastic, Paul and Harry. Thank you very much indeed.